Simon, first of all, thanks for sitting down and chatting with us. Let's talk a little bit about the treaty. It came into effect 30 years ago, dealing with greenhouse gases. Clearly, you haven't been here all 30 years. You're kind of new to the role, but give me a sense of the trajectory. Where are we in terms of when it first occurred to where we are today?
Well, I think it's been a long road. I think 30 years ago, there was a realization there's a problem. And there's a problem that requires countries, nations, parties to come together to resolve them. But as the years have ticked away, and I think the landmark agreement was in 2015 with the Paris Agreement, where it was recognized that the Kyoto Protocol, which preceded it, wasn't sufficient, wasn't inclusive enough of whether it was countries, whether it was non-state actors, that what went before was insufficient. The climate trajectory has gone from, this is a problem, we need to be aware of it, we need to be doing something about it, to what we have today, which is a climate emergency. So the clock has run down on the issue very quickly, and we're now at a point where the science is telling us we need drastic action now, and the evidence that we are seeing is telling us we need to take drastic action now. You just have to look at, well, you've just had Hurricane Fiona passing through the Caribbean, causing devastation. You've had what's happening in Pakistan, a third of the country underwater. Much of it's still underwater, millions displaced, billions of dollars worth of damage. We've had a record-breaking summer period, extreme heat, fires, droughts. Climate change is very, very real, and the science tells us that we need to cut emissions by approximately half within the next 8 years. Well, less than we're virtually through this year, so 7 years and a bit to go. And we need to get to net zero by 2050 if we are to contain temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. So a critical time for the planet. It's a critical time for countries. It's a critical time for businesses, for communities, for us as individuals.
China's been very ambitious about deploying wind, solar. We know that the majority of the electric vehicles sold recently. I think Bloomberg did a story where China's gobbling them up at a furious pace. Can you talk about the efforts underway in China and what you're seeing there?
Well, China is the largest global emitter, and action taken, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, really moves the needle. So there have been some significant initiatives there, developments in solar, developments in wind, developments in other alternative energies, which are making a difference. The question, though, is the scale of the change, this shift, this transition from fossil fuels to renewables is on such a massive scale. What needs to happen, and this is, we talk about China, it's within the G20. So look at that as a collective. As a collective, 85% of global emissions, 85% of global emissions, and 80 to 85% of global GDP. So within that grouping, you have both problem and the solution. So activity, action, climate action that addresses the emergency, that is where we will see real movement in terms of getting to the targets that are required.